again, and welcome to the Author Roundup. This special segment of the Book Connection Show showcases emerging indie authors who join us for a discussion of their newly published books. Join us for a conversation with our next guest author. Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Author Roundup. I'm Emma, and I will be your host for today's episode. I have with me self-published author Joee Davis to discuss his book, A Force to be Reckoned With. He has also published before in 2018 of the book called Oh Happy Day. Davis is a retired law enforcement officer who resides in Savannah, Georgia. Please welcome Joee Davis. Joee, hi, how are you?
Hello, Emma. How are you?
I'm very good, very good. So your newest book just came out in September, and it's called A Force to be Reckoned With. Great title, by the way.
Thank you.
Can you tell us about it, please?
Well, A Force to be Reckoned With, it centers around a character named Jared Montgomery, who's 52 years old, and he's going through a change of life. He's lived his life very successful in his profession. However, his weakness was women, and he has a history of adultery, fornication. But one evening when he's in church with his 76-year-old teenage mother, inspiration hits him to change his life. And he believes it's the Holy Spirit and that he must change his life. Well, he seeks to change his life among much female temptation in his life. And he has a lot of females in his past whose marriages he caused to dissolve because of his adulterous ways. And he left them high and dry. Well, meanwhile, within his church and within his community, while he's trying to change his ways, there's a series of murders going on. And these murders seem to be with females that he knows. So he realizes that these murders are getting closer and closer to home. So he knows they're connected with him. A Force to be Reckoned With tells the story of retribution, adultery, fornication, young first-time love, the elderly rediscovering love, hate, lies, passion, and murders. Very strange and unusual murders. But it basically tells the story of one's past catching up with him or herself.
Okay, that sounds so interesting. So when is this story set and where is it set?
It's set in Savannah, Georgia in the present time.
Okay. And so the main character, Jared, he's called to change his life. Like you said, he wants to go on a spiritual path. How does he handle the challenges that come with that?
Well, it's very difficult for him because he is a man. He's a man who's used to having lovely females around him. And he realizes that he is committing adultery or fornication if he doesn't do things the right way. So praise, he's trying to be a deacon within the church, and he also has adversaries there who know of his past and don't want him to be a deacon. But he overcomes that. But basically, it's through prayer and through refraining from a lot of his drinking and female aspirations.
And also in your book, Jared hopes to set a better example for his son. He has a son, Donnie. How does their relationship evolve as Jared works to lead a more principled life?
Well, Jared is very proud of his father. But Jared resents any woman that comes in his father's life because he knows what, Donnie knows what his father is trying to do, and he wants his father to get better. Donnie, whose name is Debonair Adonis, and he's the epitome of that name, he doesn't want anyone harming his mother, his grandmother who raised him, because his mother didn't raise him, or his father, who was his primary person who raised him. He's he has a God complex about his grandmother and his father.
Okay. And so you mentioned it a little bit, but yeah, this part is really interesting about murders that start coming up, and Jared knows that he may be connected to them with women, like you said, in his past. So how does his past recklessness actually cross with the ongoing investigations these murders?
Well, he happens to know all of these women.
Okay.
What the women have in common who are murdered is that his father, Jared's father, who's now deceased, Sherman Montgomery, Jared's father committed adultery with these women, causing a lot of pain and anguish to Jared's now 76-year-old mother.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
the connection that Jared has with these victims.
Okay, gotcha. And do you like writing this type of genre, like murder mysteries, where you keep readers guessing? Has that been fun writing that type of genre?
It was a lot of fun. One thing about writing is that you create your own world, and that world comes out the way you want it to, unlike the real world. Um,
Yeah.
I wrote originally in 2018, Oh Happy Day, which was a novel on bullying for children. And right after I finished and that Oh Happy Day became published, this story came to me. And I think it was also a chance for me to show that I can be prolific in my writing.
Okay. And was Oh Happy Day also published with Author House, or was that with another publisher?
That was with another publisher.
Another publisher. Okay. And so Jared, let's get back to the book. So Jared really struggles here in this book. He can't let go of his former ways, even with his spiritual awakening. How does this, I guess, internal conflict impact his character and decisions throughout the story?
Well, his decision in his head, in his heart, basically, he wants to stop sinning. However, in his head what he sees, he covets, he wants. He's a human being, he's flesh and blood. So he's basically going through where the spirit wars with the flesh.
Mm-hmm.
But he does succeed. He does succeed.
Great. Oh, so it's a story of success. That's great.
Oh, yes.
That's always great when you're rooting for a character ultimately and you want them to succeed. So that's great. That's good news. So his faith is tested, like we've talked about, as he faces threats to his loved ones. What role does faith play in helping him handle that fear and uncertainty of being connected to the murderers?
Well, one night, Jared has a dream, and it's actually more of a vision. And this is while he is really getting closer to, having success in abstinence. And it's the Holy Spirit that gives him this dream. And that's how he's able to handle and weave his way through to success. He's very protective of his family, just like his son Adonis is. So it stays on his mind all the time because these murders are also happening within his 76-year-old mother's neighborhood, where his father transgressed when he was alive. So he's very protective of his mother. He's a watchdog. He's a watchdog over his family and over his son because that's his only child. So that's how he succeeds, is that he brings everything of himself to trying to be the man that he feels that God has called him to be.
Yeah. Okay. And so you talked a little bit about themes of your book, and your book has a lot of great themes, but two that stick out are redemption and forgiveness. What role do these themes play in his journey, and why did you focus more on these types of themes?
Well, because after his father, Sherman Montgomery, had passed, and when he saw what his mother went through when he was a little boy, he resented his father. He loved his father, but he had a very difficult time forgiving his father or forgiving any of his father's counterpart who brought such pain and anguish to his mother. So he does eventually be able, within the story, to forgive his father and to let it go. But it's very difficult for him because when someone hurts your mother, you rather them hurt you than hurt your mother. And Jared goes through that, and that's his obstacle he has to overcome because he has no love for these females that cause pain to his mother.
Yeah. And how do you hope readers can relate to the themes or the characters in this book?
Well, I think the reader will be able to relate to it because everyone has sin in their life. Not
Mhm.
necessarily everyone has adultery or fornication in their life, but
Yeah, but some sort
the
of sin. Yeah.
majority of the people have. Uh,
Mhm.
they relate to it because there's a consequence for anything, not just fornication or adultery, anything we do against God's
Mhm.
word. God is willing to forgive us, but we still have to pay for that sin. And so often, well, karma is real. And whatever we have put out there that is wrong, it's going to come back to us in one way or the other.
Absolutely. And so your title, A Force to be Reckoned with, it's a great, powerful title. How did you come up with it? Was it something you knew right away, or did you come up with it after your story, or did you have a couple that you were kind of juggling on which one you wanted to choose?
Well, actually, a friend of mine, Elliot Brookins, he told me, Joey, why don't you write a book called A Force to be Reckoned with? And I pondered over it. I pondered such names as Conscious of Sin and things like that. But I
Yeah,
didn't come up with A Force to be Reckoned with. And then the story came. The story doesn't always come to me in chronological order. It comes to me in bit. I might write chapter 8 before I write chapter 2. You know,
yeah.
it depends on what I have the most passion for at the time.
Okay. And who do you envision picking up this book from a bookshelf in a bookstore and reading it? Did you have like a target audience you thought of when you were writing this book?
Well, I wrote it for everyone because
Mhm.
everybody experiences life and experiences things like that in life or know of something like that in life. So I basically target men and women
Yeah.
um, and especially older adults uh,
Hmm.
who are coming into a change of life because it happens with a lot of people where they say,
Yeah.
okay, I have to stop. I have to
Yeah.
stop doing, I have to stop how I'm living. I'm getting older. My health is different. And
Mm.
I'm closer to God. Anyone that's trying to seek God, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like the way, I mean, it definitely can play for both, younger adults and older adults. I like the way you mentioned that. How younger adults, they don't want to, get into these type of things in life and sins. Obviously, everyone has sins. But then, yeah, the older people, like where they're reflecting on their life and they can change. That's also very inspiring. So yeah, I like both of those takes about your target audience. So you mentioned that your friend said something that you should write this book. So what inspired? Let's get more into like what inspired the idea for this book and how it evolved once you were writing it.
Well, it came to me after the Oh Happy Day got published.
Yeah.
This book just came to me, and I'm a Christian, and I believe that the Holy Spirit tells me things, and it it just came to me, and I just started writing. I threw out a lot of stuff. The character Jared Montgomery came to me because he was in his 50s, and I knew a lot of men that were trying to change some things in their lives, wanted to get closer to home. They had spent their lives, younger lives, sowing their wild oats, and they wanted to
Mhm.
get closer to being a true husband. These are my married friends. They want to be a true husband to their wife and a true parent to their
Mhm.
children. Because if you
Mhm.
hurt your child's mother, you've hurt your child. One of the
Yeah.
best ways to be a father and a husband is to be good to your children's mother. And that really
Mhm. Really.
brings the child along beautifully in your relationship with your son or daughter.
Absolutely. That's very true. And so when did you start writing this book? You published your first book in 2018, and then when did you start writing A Force to be Reckoned with?
I started writing Forced to be Reckoned with in 2019. Uh,
Okay.
took me about a couple of years to actually complete it. In between, other books came to me that I was writing and, didn't publish. But
Oh,
in
wow.
2019, when I started A Forced to
Okay.
Be.
Okay. And what is the genre of Oh Happy Day? What's that one versus A Force to be Reckoned with?
Well, it's basically Happy Days a book for, it's a family book, family oriented book. It's about family and relationships. It's about a young boy, 9 years old, who was bullied mercilessly because he was not your strong, average boy. He could sing, though. So you can imagine he was called all kind of names because he could sing. But through his singing, he helped his parents' disintegrating marriage. A bully becomes a lifelong friend afterwards. He experiences being able to change a Playboy producer's wild life. Oh Happy Day talks about bullying in the 1970s versus bullying nowadays. It was different. It was bad. Then we have social media like this, like we have now, back then in the 70s, but bullying was just as real and oftentimes caused the bullied to become have suicidal tendencies. But the bully and the bullied sometimes became best friends back then. They didn't want to kill each other back then.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. The way you took it, like in the 70s. Okay. So for this book, when did you know that you wanted to publish this one, and how did you go about finding Author House?
Well, I probably knew in about 2020, and that I wanted to go ahead and publish it because so much of what I wrote about in there was going on, and I wanted to write it. And I looked upon people who would publish my book, and Author House. I liked what they had to offer.
Yeah, very cool. And so you've had a couple writing journeys at this point. Can you share any anecdotes of your writing experience for A Force to Be Reckoned With? What was that like writing this book, and maybe like what was your writing routine like as an author?
Well, when I wrote, just much like I did in No Happy Day, when I wrote A Force to Be Reckoned With, an author has to believe in his characters, and he has to make them as real as possible. Even your protagonists, even your evil characters, you have to write about them honestly, and you have to be that character while you're writing it. One of the best ways to write about that character, or if you're an actor, to play that character, is that you believe that what you're doing is right. Because I believe most people who are evil, I don't think they think of themselves as evil. I think that he or she believes that he's right. But in it, you have to be able to write it or perform it where the reader or watcher is seeing this character and knowing this character is evil. So when I'm writing characters, for a little while, I'm that character. I'm that person that I'm writing about. And I believe that that person is the best thing since bread,
Yeah, no, that's a great writing method. I like that, where you have to put yourself in their shoes and you have to think about the writer, or the reader thinking about the reader. Yeah, that's really important. So going back to the book for a second, so how did you want to outline your book as far as point of view? Is every character from the point of view of Jared, or how did you want your book to be laid out as far as storytelling?
Well, basically, every character is from the point of view of Jared's son, Debonair Donnie. Yes, because he's watching all this that's going on around him. And he's watching what his father, Jared, is going through. He's watching the anguish that his grandmother has had since he was a little boy. And he's watching how things come up in his court. In fact, Debonair Adonis is quite successful in his profession also. But it's from his point of view.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I like the way you took that perspective, because how old is Donnie in the book?
24.
24. Okay. Well, so he's a little older, but it does give you the idea that kids know more than we think they do. And they observe, and they're not just, not paying attention. They know what's going on.
Right, because they know what's going on from being a little boy. Donnie seen all this that was going on in his family. And he comes from a very nice family, but he saw all the sin going on. And he saw how adultery doesn't just hurt the wife, but it hurts everyone connected with her.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so was there a part of your book that was most memorable to write, or a favorite scene or anything that you like to write the most?
Well, one of my favorite parts to write was there's a character called Geraldine Fox, who is a one-time sensation on television uh, back in the 70s. And now she's much older, and she's called the grandmother from Hades. And it was fun to write that character, I think, because when I was living in New York and I was doing theater myself, I had a friend, Marilyn Sue Perry, and who's an actress. And I was thinking about her when I wrote the character because she was both glamorous and she was both very funny. And it was a lot of fun to write that part when she's on stage at a theater. I was thinking of my friend, and it was, to me, just hilarious.
Oh, that's so fun. Does she know that it was based off of her?
No, she doesn't know yet. She will know.
Be like, oh my
Will know.
Okay, so I didn't know that you did theater. So you did like Broadway in New York?
I did off Broadway. I did a couple of movies. I did that when I was in my 20s, and then when I was a teenager, I did a couple of movies, but I was off Broadway when I was in my 20s. But I always wrote before I ever got into theater. As a kid, my father gave me a gun and a belt, and my mother told me that I said, "Oh, guns shoot, daddies. I don't want guns." She said I would always carry around a pencil and a pad in my hand, and then I started trying to write on the walls in the house, but that was a no-no. I always liked writing.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. And so what is your writing process like? Did you have a difficult part of your writing process for this book? Did you encounter any writer's block, or what did that look like for you?
Amazingly, the writer's block, which does occur, didn't occur during the writing of A Force to Be Reckoned With.
Okay.
A Force to Be Reckoned With, there were my biggest problem as a writer was always continuity. That's why we need editors and things, because like in chapter 4, I might say that Jared got into his Mercedes and drove down the street. And by the time, whenever I get to chapter 22, unless I wrote it first, I had forgotten that I said he had a Mercedes, and I might say that he's getting in his Lexus. So that's one of my things I have to work on as a writer, is remembering and writing things down on the little details of things. I won't say something different later on in the book.
Yeah. Okay. Like consistency, kind of.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And so what's some feedback? I know your book is relatively newly published, but do you have any like feedback or comments you've received about your book, or any reviews or anything?
Well, some of my friends have already purchased the book, and some of them said they didn't know I could write like that because they had already read Oh Happy Day, and they like it because it kept them for a while guessing. Like one of my friends, she said that she enjoyed the character of someone trying to change himself. You know, she said, I didn't know men go through a change of life, but everybody goes through a change of life.
Yeah, it's inspiring. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so family and friends have read it. What do they think of you as an author? And you said that they're surprised that you couldn't write like that.
Well, yeah, it's with friends, it's different because they know you one way, and then people who don't know you and just know you as an author, think of you as another way.
Yeah.
So they just, it's just they're used. I used to be a police officer, so, and that was a surprise to my family and everyone else. So they think of me as just being Joee.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you see yourself writing another book? Did you like this genre in particular, or is there, if you want to write another book, is there another genre that you would want to explore?
Well, I want to write, and I mentioned earlier that I was going to name this one Conscious of Sin. I want to expound on my next book is Conscious of Sin. I've already started writing on it.
Oh, cool. Okay. So is that a part two, or is it a separate
No,
book?
this is a totally separate
Okay.
novel. It's totally different. I kind of observed one of my neighbors. What I liked about observing him is that he always, when his wife would go jogging, he would be outside waiting on her, and I guess talking to her on the phone until she got back home. And this inspired me. And I noticed when his wife would go shopping or go somewhere in her car, he'd come outside the house and wait for her to pull up in the driveway. And I loved, and this is a middle-aged couple, and I loved that when I saw that. With writers, it's the simplest things that will cause them to write something else. And I was able to expound upon that. The story is about not about anything like a force to be reckoned with. It's about love, because I like writing love. Yeah.
That's awesome. So this book, A Force to Be Reckoned With, it definitely like wraps up then. You're right. You said that Jared does have success, but not too much more because we don't want to give it away. But you said it wraps up pretty nicely, or?
Yes, it does. It wraps up surprisingly.
Okay.
Yeah, it wraps up surprisingly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you're viewing then and watching, then you'll just have to get it to see what happens with all the murders and everything, because that part's so interesting. I love that that part of your book. Yeah. So we talked a little bit. We touched on it a little bit, but what advice would you give to a writer working on his or her first book? What types of things do you think they should know before seeking publishing?
Well, I would always advise a new author to never give up, because you will receive rejections.
Mm.
Never give up and never get disillusioned, and to make your work detail oriented. Describe even the simplest little thing as how someone might even open a doorknob, because you want to build that character, build upon your characters, and make them seem like people that the reader would want to know or know. And don't be preachy. Never be preachy.
Yeah. And how much time do you put into writing your book? Is that an important advice that you would give someone, or like time management? What would you say to someone that's trying to manage their time about writing and finishing their book?
Well, if you are tired from working doing a book, you can work on it all the time, because as a writer, different ideas pop in your head all the time. And I have to have a pen and a pad in every room, because I want to write it down before I forget it.
Yeah.
If you're working, because when I wrote Oh Happy Day, it was before I retired, and a lot of times at night, and you get so engrossed in your story and telling your story that you're up until 3 or 4 in the morning, and you have to get back up to go to work, maybe around.
Yeah.
You have to use your time wisely, because ideas will pop to an author anywhere. You can be in church and an idea will just pop in your head. So I have pen and pad in my car. I've got pen and pad in every room in the house.
Oh, that's awesome. That's good advice to, keep pen and paper everywhere. So you mentioned that you get ideas at night. Do you usually get ideas at night, or do you write more in the morning, or what's like your routine like usually?
Well, now I write more in the evening.
Okay.
Because I'm more relaxed in the evening, and there are things I don't have to do as much in the evening. But ideas will come to me sometimes in the mornings, and I'll spend 3 hours going over one idea to seeing if it makes sense and trying to incorporate it into the story. And then eventually sometimes going back and taking it out the story after being there for 3 hours thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And is there a type of writing that you like to do? Do you prefer like dialogue, or do you like more descriptionary, like depictions, or things like that, like scene development? What do you prefer? Or do you like both?
I'm both. I'm more, I was going to say more than half and half.
Yeah.
I'm very descriptive at times, and then I love dialogue. I love dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun, right?
Oh, yeah.
Great.
I always write with an eye for a book to become a movie eventually. So I have to have some dialogue. Yeah.
Yeah. And so your cover is really, really beautiful. Do you have a book with you at all around so we can show your book? So walk me through the cover design. How did that cover, how was it created? How much?
When when Author House asked me what did I want on the cover, I wanted a the water. There's water there, and I
Yeah.
wanted the water, and I wanted the water to look haunting, and I wanted the background of the city, and I wanted a handsome male, and I wanted the book cover in black, and that's what they gave me, and the model I think does the book justice.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. I think that's a really great cover.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Nice. And did you like the design process and things like that? You did like going back and forth and working with a designer?
Oh yes, because it was
Yeah.
uh, because they're professionals, and they came up with they come up with what you see in your head, and you're trying to explain it to them.
Yeah.
Uh, they came up with a very with a plus cover.
Beautiful. Yeah, it was great. Okay. Well, are there any professional or personal goals that you have for next year?
Well, I want to at least be halfway through Conscious of Sin, which is what I'm working on now.
Okay.
I want to be at least halfway through it because I write when the inspiration hits. And just as you asked
Yeah.
earlier in the interview, writer's block does occur. And
Hmm.
I'm going through that right now with Conscious of Sin. But
Hmm.
fortunately, I never went through it with a force to be
With
reckoned
that one? Yeah. Okay. Well, I just have one last question for you, and that is, what is the number one impact you hope readers take away from your book? What do you want them to feel when they read your book, A Force to Be Reckoned With?
I would want them to feel that karma is real. And
Hmm.
because I believe that one day Jesus is going to come back and someone might be 21 years old or have just sinned. And I don't want people to get caught wrong when
Yeah.
Jesus does come back. And
Hmm.
I want them to get from the book. I want them to enjoy it because there's a lot of interesting, like I said, first time love, the elderly rediscovering love. There's a lot of fun in the
Yeah.
book, but karma is real. Our past transgressions will catch up with us. We'll be forgiven, but those past transgressions will come, catch up with us, what we've done in the past. So I would
Hmm.
love for readers to realize to um, be conscious about what you do, and
Yeah.
especially when it hurts other people. Try not to hurt
Hmm.
other people. Try to show
Yeah.
love. But one thing about the God that we serve, He's very willing to forgive, and that's what I would love for people to get from the book.
That's great. Yeah, I love the messaging of your book. I think it's so beautiful, and I do believe that, yeah, karma is a thing. And I love the way you have a very strong message and really great themes, but you tie it in with a beautiful story and plot and characters. And I'm glad that Jared has success, but you'll just have to buy it and read and see how that happens.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all the time we have today. Is there anything else that you would like to say to our viewers before we go, Joey?
Well, I would just like to say thank you for entertaining me, and please buy A Force to Be
Yeah.
Reckoned with.
Yeah, please. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me today on Author Roundup. We wish you the best on your author journey, and we hope readers find your book from this podcast and purchase it and read it and leave you a review. If you want to purchase A Force to Be Reckoned With, you can head to authorhouse.com and purchase it through the online bookstore. It also is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And if you do, please read it and leave Joey a review. I know he would love that. And yeah, thank you so much, Joey, for joining me today.
Thank you, Emma. You have a blessed day.
Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.